Hello, Sylvia S. Johnson here. We have some sketches and some prototypes and a build board. This is in the build stage of the Certified Learning Environment Architect course. And this is the front page where I was just kind of making a list of all the things I was thinking about. We're supposed to be arranging an orientation to a course that has lots of different components to it, and so I decided to go ahead and do the course that I'm working on, and that could generalize from there. The thing I was thinking of taking is if we go by the students' focus on the grades, that in Canvas there's a grade book, and in the sub-grade book in Mastering Chemistry that we access through Canvas, there's a grade book there. And when I'm picturing that my students are keeping track of whether they've done everything or they've seen everything, I think that they should go to the grade book and see the places where they have entries and the places where they have blanks, and that's how they would know what they're supposed to be working on. So anyway, I thought I would try that as a starter. So first of all, there's a book they have to read, and then after they read about it, they have to write about it, and then they get points for the writing. When they take their quizzes and get them back, then they're supposed to write learner reflections about the material that was on the quiz, especially the skills and concepts. In the Mastering Chemistry program, they do end-of-chapter exercises, and for those, they're supposed to be working in a handwritten notebook where I take up tear sheets, plus they get the grades online. Also in the Mastering Chemistry, I have some things that are for training. So it says that they're for practice, but they're actually not for practice. They're for learning, and they're supposed to do those. So it'd be nice to have a way to see that they do those, even if they're not for points. And then we have these things called dynamic study modules that are recursive. And so those are very hard to schedule because they're not possible to do in one night. But you have to kind of make them due tomorrow, otherwise nobody looks at them. And then they don't finish by tomorrow, so then you make them do the next day, and they don't finish by the next day. And I've been just keep on moving them by hand. So it'd be nice if I didn't have to do that. Also, when they come into class, then we have table time. Usually they work in groups of 4. And most of that stuff I grade as they do it, and I never really collect it, which kind of unnerves them. Because they want to feel like they turned it in for their points when they're actually getting their points by sitting there doing it, and I'm grading it as I walk around. And also then they take quizzes, which I do take up. And the quizzes I'm interested in, maybe we can do something else with the quizzes rather than use the class time, because it's not very interactive and it's kind of a waste that they're in the same room with me. And then also I just wanted to put on the board here that there are office hours, and that might need to be incorporated into the orientation so that they would know they're supposed to go to do it. So that's a pretty full menu. So here's my sketch. This is my student, and he's supposed to read the text. He's going to get papers in class. He's going to have PowerPoints in Canvas. There's going to be content embedded in end of chapter assignments. And so mostly he looks like this. Ah! And he doesn't know what he's going to do. I put this one here with this is evidence, because these are all things he's going to be tested over. So he's got this burden that he's responsible for content, skills and concepts out of the text, skills and concepts out of papers he gets in class, skills and concepts out of PowerPoints that he has to look at himself, and skills and concepts that are not necessarily gone over anywhere else, but in the EOC, in the end of chapters. So if he doesn't do the end of chapters, then he will actually miss out on some key concepts that are only presented in the chapters. So this is kind of what I would wish, is that they have here their pile of Beanie Babies, and they're going to pick up each of these and drag and drop, and they're going to set it out in this intellectual landscape, and they're going to end up at the end with an organized array of content, where they've finally made sense of all the different skills and concepts that they're doing. And so the learner's role is to be sorting and organizing. We could do it as an introductory activity, or I could make this sorting and organizing part of a reflection activity. But in essence, if I had some kind of a thing where they would have their pile of learning outcomes over here that they could drag and drop and move them around over here on their little intellectual landscape, then they would smile. So then this is kind of more like a prototype than a sketch, because I was thinking, well, what would that look like? One of the things that how they can keep track and keep things organized is they're going to have these Mind for Numbers or some other book that they have to read and write readers' responses. And then these learner reflections are to their quizzes. They're going to get the quizzes and responses. And so I would want to have a place in the on the screenshot where they're looking into the learning management system. They would see here's all their Mind for Numbers are grouped together, and their learner reflections and quiz responses are all grouped together. And I've been doing that mostly by using you can get them in alphabetical order or you can get them in order by dates. And so what I've been doing is trying to use code letters at the starts of the different assignments so that when they click sort by alphabetical, that they will group. So all the Mind for Numbers will be here, 1 through 10, but they all start with the same thing, so they're in the same place in the alphabet. So that was a thought I had. So this is more like prototype rather than a sketch. So this one's more like sketch. And again, I guess I'm big on trying to get the learner to have his own sense of how things are organized. So here we'd have learner outcomes from the different text chapters. And in a semester summary, I would like them to actually know the 160 or 120 or whatever. There's like 10 chapters with 12 each. So that's 120 learner outcomes that they work on. I would like for them to be able to articulate those learner outcomes and make a plan what they're going to learn. And then as they go through the homework and the reading, I would like them to be able to come back to these learner outcomes and say, yes, this reading, I give myself a star here because it connects with this learner outcome. I give myself a star here because I did a different activity connects with that learner outcome. And I would like them to have a lot more ownership of the learner outcomes. And so here I have him giving himself stars. The thing is, how would this I put under the feedback. How would they do it? Well, it's going to be self-report. They're going to have to recognize them. They could make tally marks. There would possibly be a way where the system will tally. The publisher provides it, but their learner outcomes are not very specific. So I'm a little disappointed in them. And then I did last semester, I did an end of semester survey where I went through the different learner outcomes and I asked them how much did they think they studied them. And that just says to go on to the next page. So this is another way I was thinking about if the system was going to do it. So this is a sketch and a prototype combined. You'd have your different skills and concepts that you're learning in your end of chapter problems and your dynamic study modules. These are various desired skills and concepts, right? So this like screenshot, you got your list. And then it would be really nice if we had these learner outcomes and the student could have a running total of how many they have correct versus how many they've attempted and what the percent is of their completion of these different learner outcomes. So it'd be really nice if the Mastering Chemistry, the online homework that we're using, if they had something that I could show to the student rather than just having something where I can put an end of semester assessment that just goes to the committee. I think the students would like to see this. How many are correct? How many are attempted? And then maybe even another column, how many are assigned, so that they could see how they're working towards mastery of that. But here again, the thing I'm really focusing on is having them able to know what the skills and concepts are. And this is just showing that they're going to have the learner reflections on the skills and concepts, but they would be able to write those. Because see, now when they try to write them, they got this funny look on their face because they can't really articulate what it is they're trying to learn. They just feel like they have a lot of work to do and they're busy all the time. So anyway, it's currently publisher provided. Some are okay, some are too broad. So some of those learner outcomes might have to be rewritten. Yeah, they're too global. Okay, so speaking of global, then I got off on the globe here, right? There we have these global skills and concepts. Then I would think, well, what if, if this was going to be an overall orientation on, early in the class to show the student all the things they have to do. We'd have sort of a global outlook, and the teacher chooses amongst these global outlooks the concepts. I suppose it would be nice if we had more than enough learner outcomes that the student could choose, or ideally the student would make the same choices the teacher makes, but that only happens ideally. Anyway, there'd be various skills and concepts, and we'd want them to find them as learner outcomes in the lecture, learner outcomes in the assignments, learner outcomes in the exams. But underneath all of that, rather than feeling like it was just work and points, would be that they should feel like they're actually developing skills and mastering concepts. And what usually happens is we get this whirlwind. Here's the poor learner here, and his head is full of this, like a tornado going on. The skills and concepts are just flying around between his ears, and the poor thing, he doesn't know what he's going to do. But ideally, it would settle down that he would be able to say, yes, this skill, I see now, I've been working on it for 6 weeks, and I do actually know how to do something like electron configurations or a stoichiometry problem. But here again, it keeps coming back to me that I want to have some kind of a way that the student does the organizing. That would be nice if it was part of the interface. So they could give names to the skills, give names to the concepts, put them in different orders, and organize them. And then instead of them having a big headache, they could have a nice smile on their face and say, okay, I understand what I'm trying to accomplish. Because I think that a lot of times they try to accomplish, but they don't understand very much. So then this one, I guess, is more like a prototype. I was thinking almost even if we had like a welcoming animation here, I was just trying it out, have a synthetic computer voice would come on and talk, and we could have a script, and it would just take them through all the pages, but it will be devoid of human sense because they're just going to work with the computer. So anyway, there you go. There's my synthetic computer voice for you. Anyway, they could have various pages. There would be an assignment list. There'd be grade lists. There'd be different modules. There might even be announcements. There'd be email notifications. There are all kinds of different ways that this content would come to them as a barrage. But ultimately, in each of these different communications, there would be like a master button that would take them to pay dirt. That says, here, I'm ready to do my homework, and I'm looking at this thing that's making me think of homework, and I want to do homework now. So I'll click on this, and it'll take me to something that needs to be done, that has all its information, and it's ready to, that if I put time on it, I will end up with points. And so they could come in an interface with the course in any of these different ways, but within each of these different ways, there would be a button that would take them to work that needs to be done. Then they would do that work, and however they came into it, the system would know where it's supposed to be submitted so that they could get the right tally marks and the credit for it in the hierarchy that's built behind the scenes. So I guess that's more kind of a prototype. That's this one, and there's this one. So then, after I had so many sketches and prototypes, I was kind of ready to make a build board. So I got together with a student who's graduated, but she's working here this summer, and she's taken all sorts of different classes, some face-to-face, some online, some hybrid. A lot of them are listed as face-to-face, but they're like mine. They have a considerable online component. They use the Canvas for testing or for grading or for keeping track of assignments. So we focused much more what's the learning environment that would be needed, and what are the physical constraints in space, and what are the constraints in time. And so one of the things we talk about is if they have 150 minutes of class a week, then they have 300 minutes a week out of class. Well, what if we took out of that 300 minutes? What if we took a bite out of that for assessment? would we owe them class time, or would we owe them time off from class? Or could we actually say, no, we're taking this out of this 300 minutes, and then their homework we'd have to demonstrate was diminished so that it could be finished rather than 300 minutes. It'd be maybe only 200 minutes worth of homework because they